Welcome to A&B Horror Movies. I'm Aaron, and I'm very excited to be joined today by Brad Anderson. Brad, welcome.
That's good to be here.
Yes, absolutely. I can't wait to chat with you about your brand new apocalyptic sci-fi horror thriller called Worldbreaker.
This world has been broken many times. Remember the stories I told you? About the awful things happening up north. Entire towns ravaged by an enemy we did not yet understand. It's not easy surviving out here. We have to be careful. We have to be smart. Come on, Milla! It's your best time yet.
We can't hold the line anymore. Mom, where are we going? Dad, where?
Someplace safe. Come on.
We're gonna make it through this. I love you, Willa.
This is what you trained for, Willa. The world isn't broken, Willa. It has you in it.
Congratulations. I loved it.
Thanks, man. It's a good description of it. That covers all the bases.
Yes. Oh, it's so good. I just watched it. So my very first question for you, let's jump right into it,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
what appealed to you about Worldbreaker? What was it about this story that made you want to create this fantastic new film?
I think two things. One, just the idea of doing a kind of creature movie or a movie that where it's a sort of set in a quasi near future apocalyptic world that's sort of overrun by these monsters essentially that are taking out humanity. It's a kind of dark story in that regard. I'd never done a kind of movie that had that kind of genre element to it so much. So for me, the chance to to do a little world building with this movie, Worldbreaker,
Mhm.
was a real draw. The other thing was just the core relationship in our story, which is between this father and his daughter, who are kind of who sort of escaped to this island off the coast to sort of wait out the storm that's destroying humanity and try to survive, and his struggle to keep her safe and help her guide her into the world, whatever it's going to be. Like I really responded to that. I mean, I'm a parent myself. I got a couple of kids, and I definitely know that feeling of like what a parent will do to keep their kids safe and to help them thrive and shield them from the world. But this is really also a coming age story. It's about a young girl in
Mhm.
our story who has to shed her childhood naivete and grow up and become a warrior essentially like her mother and fight the bad guys. So dad in our story is kind of there to help her train and learn how to do that. So I like the relationship between the father and Willa in our movie. It's just very poignant. It's funny. It's sad. It's like it felt very real to me. And I think when I read Josh's script, like that element of it combined with the more scary horror element was like the great combination.
Yeah, oh, it's perfect, and the casting is phenomenal. You're speaking to Billie Boullet, who plays Willow, is just fantastic, and Luke
Yeah,
Evans, and also Milla Jovovich. You have some legends in the
yeah,
mix. I think the trio of of actors you selected are just fantastic. So my question, I guess then, is what was the casting process like, and what was it working with these actors?
I mean, getting uh, Luke was in my mind like kind of a coup because he's such a gifted actor at playing these sort of complicated but heartfelt kind of characters and tough guys who are also have are vulnerable at the same time. Like he has that combination, which is perfect for this role. So he responded to the character and the chance to play a father, I think, in a way that worked out. I mean,
Mhm.
there wasn't
Oh,
much.
he's
We
fantastic.
looked at other
Yeah.
actors, but in the end, like he just seemed like the perfect choice for it. Um, Mila came on board. We just made an offer to her to play the mom. She's done similar sort of roles, but
Mhm.
this one was a little different for her, playing again like a mother warrior, not just like a warrior per se, but a mother who's fighting to protect her family. And
Mhm.
I think she reacted to that, and having someone who's got a little bit of history holding a sword and wearing armor felt like a good combination.
Yes.
Billie Boullet, who plays Willa, she's the daughter. We cast a pretty wide net for young actresses for that role. Looked at a number of people. Billie
Mhm.
just, you know, whatever. Sometimes you can't really articulate it. She just like had the spunk and the intelligence and the childlikeness that I liked, and she really hit it off with Luke. So there you go, you got that chemistry. So the casting went pretty effortlessly, ultimately, and because sometimes it can go on and on. So it was a good process. I mean, I think we landed a cast. It's
Mm.
not a big cast, but it's a nice little group that felt very like connected and real.
Yes, and I love that you mentioned the chemistry between Billy and Luke, because it's incredible, it's authentic, it's believable, and I love that you leaned into that with the film.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge horror fan, huge creature feature fan. I have to talk about the creature design. So we have the breakers, and we also have the hybrids for the.
Yeah.
I don't want to give any spoilers away here, but I have to ask about the creature design and the evolution of those creatures, because they look so damn good.
Yeah, they're cool. They're different. I mean,
Yes.
it's like I guess when you're doing this is something I haven't done real creature movie before, but like trying to create a creature that has some novel thing about it because there's been so many done, right? That's tricky. But I think we
Hmm.
started with the template that the biology of what the creatures would be. These are creatures that, in essence, have been hibernating or living dormant under the polar ice caps for millennia. And in our story, the idea is that like when the polar ice caps begin to melt because of global warming and man screwing up the environment, these things are unleashed and they kind of are taking their wrath out on mankind. So we just started with the concept of what these creatures, how they would evolve if they lived underground in crevices under the earth, like cicadas, like insects that burrow and live under the earth.
Yeah.
Uh, and so what does that look like? So they had an insect or arachnid type quality to them. They had to be fierce and scary. But we wanted to give them a human element too. The idea that maybe somewhere back in the early dawn of evolution, like there was a branch of humanity that's went
Mm.
underground and evolved into these creatures. So we wanted to give them a human component. So they're kind of like almost
Yes.
like part human, part insect, if you will, big and formidable. And so I always think the idea of adding a human component to a monster makes it much more scary than if they're completely, if they're so alien to us, they're even scary if they have a
Yes.
human element. So that was
Yeah.
kind of the combination of those two things. And the hybrids, which are kind of meant in our story to be like, so what happens if you get infected by one of these breakers, is what we call them. You become a
Mm.
hybrid, sort of a combination of a human and a breaker DNA, and you kind of sort of like you become a bit of a hive mind kind of minion to these creatures, and you kind of become their drones, almost like the drones in a beehive, or following what
Yes.
he wants them to do. So like
Yeah.
insects, the insect world is like so rich with you don't have to make this shit up. Like you can just
No, oh
pull
my
all the stuff
gosh,
from
yeah.
what happens in the insect world,
Yeah.
and it's there. I mean, and Ridley Scott did it in Alien. I mean, all these movies with monsters often pull from the insect world because they're just, you can't get scary.
Mhm. Especially if you magnify it to the size of
And
us,
make it
right? Or
big.
even
Yeah, the
even
moment,
bigger, like
right.
Starship Troopers.
The Starship Troopers, I was going to say, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, some great films we're talking about here. So I want to talk a little bit about how you build tension in your films because I think you're a genius when it comes to building tension, but also focusing on character development. And I think Worldbreaker is a perfect example of that because you have these creatures and sort of the threat from the outside world, but then we sort of have we really have a nice moment between father and daughter, sort of a coming of age story as well in there. So my question for you is, how do you balance that story character development with building that tension that is frightening in itself?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. And that's sort of the part of what was interesting to me about this project from the get-go is that how do you meld those things together? Because much
Mm,
of it is kind of a, it's about the dad and the daughter trying to survive together on this island and away from the threat. But the threat's always out there. They're the monsters and the looming, you know, monster invasion is imminent, so there's always this sense that that could happen. So there's a bubbling under the surface of even quiet
mhm,
scenes. We want to try to build a sense, a slow growing sense of suspense and dread. Bad things can happen and they very well might. And so I think even in the quieter moments between dad and his daughter, like always trying to find unsettling I- elements that make you realize that not everything is not, this isn't just like living on a farm in the country. Like these people are surviving. It's a struggle, and if they don't play their cards right, they're going to be the next victims of these monsters. So I think it's,
mhm,
I mean, I love suspense. I love building that. A lot of that comes from how you design a scene, also comes from your use of music and sound design. There's a lot of sound design in the movie and a lot of sound design in my movies in general that I love to do, and I think is one of the more underrated elements of filmmaking, um, particularly in like suspense and thrillers. Like you can do so much with sound design. It can be such a important part of the process of building suspense or the lack of sound or music. You know what I mean? Like that's, you have
mhm.
all those tools at your disposal. So there's a lot of scenes in this where you hear the hybrids, these creatures out in the forest, dark forest, but you never see them. In fact, just hearing them is creepier than seeing them in a way. You know
Yes.
they're
Oh
there,
my
but
gosh.
you know,
Yeah.
like I love sound. I think sound is one of those things that is such a great way to kind of creep an audience out, is what you do with your sound design.
Yes, yes, and the reveal of the creatures in Worldbreaker is so good because you're really good at not showing too much, right? It's what you don't see
Yeah.
perhaps that's scariest, and our first glimpses of these monsters, it's sort of through shadows and pieces of them, and it's so good, it's so intense, and it's scary even, so,
Yeah.
I don't really have a question there, I'm just giving you some praise, well
I think
done,
you're right.
I
Well,
think
you're
I think it's fantastic.
it's the trick of holding back. Like I mean, Jaws was the one, maybe the Jaws story is the most
Absolutely, yeah.
obvious one where the shark, if the shark had worked, I don't think that movie would have been as effective. The fact that it didn't meant that Spielberg had to pull back on how much he used the shark and left a lot up to the audience's imagination. So anytime you do a monster movie or creature movie, I think you got to hold back on the creature as much as possible. Plus, just
Mhm,
on a practical level, it's like we wouldn't have had the budget to have that many creature effects in the movie anyhow. So it's like you have to pick and choose where you want to see it,
yes.
find ways to show these things in kind of like glancing blows rather than like full on, and so that's what we meant to do in the, particularly in the beginning of the movie. It's like kind
Well,
of
I think, yeah, I think you've achieved that. So job well done. It's kind of, like the Blair Witch Project, you never see the
yeah,
Blair
right.
Witch
That's
and
amazing.
she's
Right.
terrifying.
Absolutely.
Let's see. So for those who haven't seen your film, how would you describe it using other films? Sort of like Alien meets Predator. Perhaps there are
Yeah.
some, I usually say nothing like that, but perhaps there are some
Yeah, there's
similarities here.
elements of, I mean, I think it's like, I think of I mean, The Last of Us in a way, not a show, but a movie. A show,
Yes,
like,
the
you know,
series, yeah.
kind of father-daughter survival story element. There was another movie that I love called The Road with Viggo Mortensen, which is about a
Mhm,
father and his son who are surviving in a kind of post-apocalyptic world. Um, so it has those kind of elements. And I think I was sort of more thinking about this movie and making it less about other movies and more about like the idea of like the story, because it's a story about storytelling. And in the movie, the father talks about this legendary character. He tells his daughter stories about this legendary character who's kind of like their version of Hercules, who goes out and
mhm.
fights the demons and
Yes.
trying to inspire her. So the movie itself is really about how stories can inspire us and give us hope and help us get through bad times. And so I was thinking a lot of like in this movie how we wanted to make it feel like a fable almost, or a parable, or like an old Grimm's fairy tale in a way, like
Mhm.
you know. So give it like the idea that you'd hear this told you around a little roaring fire late at night. It's meant to kind of evoke that sort of feeling rather than like a shout out to some big Hollywood movie. It's a more
Right.
intimate thing. So we were thinking more about, yeah, those kinds of stories like the Grimm's fairy tales, or Little Red Riding Hood, or some of the Irish. We shot the movie in Northern Ireland, so
Mhm.
even pulling in some of the Irish folk tales and stuff, and like these monsters that come from the sea and they're going to overtake you and kill you. So it was kind of cool to like try to bring that element into it. It gives it a little bit more of a classic parable quality rather than a straight out genre, thriller or whatever you want to call it. Um,
Yeah.
so it's a bit of a, it's not a movie that easily fits into one specific category. But then again, none of my movies probably do. I like to, kind of mix it up a little bit and mash up different genres. In this case, a monster movie with a survival story with a father-daughter relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. There is a hopeful element to it as well, and to see,
Yeah.
the main character sort of coming of age moment for her, and she's about ready to, let's say, kick some ass, and I will leave it at that. I don't wanna give any spoilers away, and, so if you haven't seen, Worldbreaker, make sure to check it out. It's just fantastic. It's an awesome new creature feature, sci-fi horror thriller, like I said, and it's definitely one to see. So congratulations on your film. I have
Thank
to
you.
mention before I let you go that Session 9 is one of my favorite movies. It's always in my top 10. I
Yeah.
first saw it at the little theater, well, the big theater down the street from Fenway Park when it first came out, and
Wow.
I've loved it ever since. And I live right near the Danvers Mental Hospital,
Oh my
even though
God.
now it's all been torn down and converted
Oh,
to
right.
condos. Your
I know.
film captured that historic building in its true form, although very scary. Um, and I don't know. I just want to say I love your film. I have
Yeah.
to ask, what was it like filming in the hospital before they tore
It
all of it down and now it's these
was,
beautiful condos?
yeah, you're right. Now it's actually, yeah, beautiful, expensive condominiums. Um, I think it's called Avalon now, which is
I
really
think so.
tasty.
Yes, they kept the main center structure
Yeah, they kept the
building,
main brick building
but
because
all the wings
yeah,
are
they tore them all.
gone.
Which they
Yeah.
should have, because those things, even when we were shooting the movie there, were super precarious and dangerous, like floors were collapsing. So it was a very like
Yeah.
crazy shoot in that regard because we were shooting in the real locations, which what they were. And it
Mm.
was spooky. It's a creepy place. A lot of bad stuff has gone down there. And some of the actors, Peter Mullen, who plays the main guy, he was really
Yes.
affected by the spirit of that
The
place. It's got
history.
this
Yeah.
bad. There's a graveyard where patients are buried and everything. Yeah. But you couldn't, again, like location is critical, and you couldn't have made that movie on a set. It had to be there. You had to be in that actual place to make it really feel like you were, conjuring up the spirits of that horrific place.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. When I moved to the North Shore, which is where I live, one of the first things I did, my wife and I did, was drive over to see
Yeah, I
the
love the
old
Danvers. I know.
the old Danvers mental hospital.
Yeah,
Um, well, and I also love Next Stop Wonderland, also not a horror movie, but a
no,
fantastic
it's good.
film.
And
And
I like the Boston connection. That's where it all began for me.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love that too. If you'd ever want to come back on and talk about Session 9, I'd love to pick your brain on it.
Yeah, sure.
Two questions for you. I usually do a this or that segment, but I know we don't have a lot of time for that. So I'm just going to ask you the big one, which is one I always go for. And that is, if you had to choose, would you pick the Halloween franchise, so all the Halloween films, or the
Okay.
Friday the 13th franchise, all the Friday the 13th films?
I think the Halloween franchise, it's a Friday the 13th stuff's a little like
Yeah.
there. And I think the Halloween movies feel, they're more real, it's like a serial killer on the loose. So I think I'm more, if it's a question between like crazy nightmare dreams and serial killer, stalking teenagers and killing them, I'm more on that side of it, I
Mm.
think.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Brad, thank you so much for chatting with me. Congratulations one last time on Worldbreaker. I think it's just amazing. You've created an awesome film.
Well, thanks.
And I can't wait to see what's next for you.
All right. Good talking to you.
Yes, agreed. All right. If you're watching, like and subscribe because it helps my channel, and make sure to go see Worldbreaker. Brad, thank you one last time.
All right. Cheers.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.